here I am. Got my pink Bible. No, I'm just kidding. That's not mine. But it's cool laying there, right? All right, I need a volunteer couple. Let me see. Eric and Kitty, awesome. Thanks for volunteering. If you guys will go around and come up here, it'd be really cool. See what happens when you just see what happens when you went to school with me? Hey, Eric's done worse stuff than that to me, so there's always payback. I'm not going to tell everything I know. Not in front of everybody. I'll tell y'all later if y'all want to pull me aside. All right, guys, great. Thank you. Give them a hand. All right, I need you guys, Kitty, stand this way facing the crowd. Eric, face her back to back. All right. All right, that's what I was seeing. You're just a little taller. A little rounder, too. All right, Kitty, I want you to describe to me exactly what you see. Advancing a camera. That's all right. No, that's cool. Eric, man, describe to me exactly what you see. All right, cool. Yeah, drums, lights, a big screen, people, a camera, and Vance. Hey, Vance. All right, now I need to ask you guys, we're going to play a game. Who's right? But they didn't say the same thing. So how can they both be right? They got different perspectives, right? All right, thank you guys. You guys are awesome. A+, Eric. First one ever. Second one. I went to school with you, Eric. All right, when we're married and we're married to the opposite sex, hopefully, that's a good place to start. Honestly, but generally, and this is what I found in my experience, we generally marry someone that's exactly the opposite of us in every way. And so when we have disagreements, we, from our perspective, say they have to be wrong. And so both partners in a marriage start to plead that their case is right. But maybe it's not a matter of right or wrong. Maybe it's a matter that we don't always see things from the exact same perspective. Eric and Kitty both were right in what they saw. They just had totally different perspectives. Now here's the interesting thing. Had I turned them around, they would have seen what the other one saw, which I should have done because that would have been cool, right? Sometimes when we're in a relationship, we need to stop thinking so self-centered, stop being right all the time, and start to shift in our perspective of what the other person in our relationship sees. Today I'm going to start a series of talks, and it's called My Manic Marriage. Now, I'm going to talk about marriage in an extremely non-religious way. We're not going to go into all of the Bible details of marriage, and I hope that you know those. I hope that somebody talked with you about those things when you got married. If you don't know those, there's a million books, a million videos you can get. You can go and you can research all the scriptures, and that's good. Here's what I found in marriage, though. It's not always what I know or don't know that causes the problem. It's what I feel and what I experience, right? Does anybody relate to that? Okay, so in this series, I'm going to talk about what it looks like in real life to have these relationships. Now, I heard some already singles griping because I'm doing a marriage series. Well, get over it. That may be why you're single. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. Don't take that. Here's the thing. a lot of what I'm talking about, you have to take it and make it apply. A lot of what I'm talking about is going to help everyone in every relationship in your life. If you struggle making friends and keeping friends, maybe you're going through friendship divorces. And maybe there's something you can do about it. If you're not married, and if you plan on someday getting married, what I'm going to talk about is going to be extremely important to you, because you don't want to marry the wrong person. No elbowing. All right, this is going to be an elbow-free series, all right? Everybody just shake their arms out, put them out in front. Okay, do not do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. What I'm going to talk about, I really want you to get. Do you understand? I think it's important that you understand what we're talking about. Now, some of you guys may be in trouble right now. Your marriages may be in really, really desperate situations. And that breaks my heart, because nobody ever intends for that to where their marriage to get to. Sometimes you feel helpless, like it's happening to you. And I have to tell you this, I can't change that, and you may not be able to change what's happened to you. But you can change. And this can help you. And if it doesn't restore and repair your current marriage, then it can help you in your future relationships. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I want her to know these things now, because if she's dating this way, she's going to become more likely to marry the right person this way. And if she makes these mistakes in dating, then she can end up marrying the wrong person for her, and it can cause trouble further in our lives. Now, I want to start by saying there's some things that can help you, right? I'm going to give you a lot of stuff that can definitely help you out. But there is no magic bullet for your marriage, okay? I can't fix your marriage. Coming here, if you just walk in here and show up, it will not change your marriage. It won't change it. Having a marriage that produces fruit, having a marriage that gives you this life that's beyond a life by yourself, it's not a me plus my wife, it's a me times my wife kind of life that we were supposed to have together. So entering into a marriage relationship becomes an exponential life change. Now that can be an exponentially good life change, or as many can testify, that can be an exponentially horrible life change, right? You can do this, just don't do this. All right? If you do this big, she'll see you. No. Okay. The other thing I want to tell you is that you have to work on it. You have to want it. You have to want this. You have to be willing to do the hard work that it takes to get the fruit out of this. And if you're willing, and if you want it, and if you're willing to put in the time and energy and effort, you're able to really examine yourself and examine your life and examine your motives, then you're going to get a lot out of this. And if two of you are committed to this, and maybe you've got a good marriage right now, maybe you've got a good marriage, it can be better. It can always be better. You can have the most incredible experience in a marriage that you've ever dreamed of. It's like the fantasy fairy tale marriage. You can have that. Or you can just continue sharing a name, sharing a house, sharing kids. And I don't think that's what you really want. I don't think you would be here if that's what you really want. Now, I want to tell you, I'm going through this that there are a lot of resources that I have, that I've gone through that work. Okay, they're good. But just like I talked about, if you're not going to do the work, it doesn't do you any good to read a book. If you're not going to do the work, don't pay for marriage counseling. Okay, it's ridiculous to waste your money on marriage counseling if you're not going to do anything that they say to do anyway. Does that make sense? So, if you want that kind of marriage, and if you want your marriage to thrive, and if you want your marriage to be healed, and if you want your future marriage to be a dream marriage, then you have to do some work and you have to apply yourself. Now, these are some great resources that I've been through. This is just a fraction of the marriage books that I've gone through because, well, I needed them. Because I married a woman. Somebody, wait, I saw that. None of this. Okay? That was my wife doing that. None of that. Okay, I'm going to tell you right up front. If you got a pretty decent marriage, this book is awesome. It will kick it in overdrive. This is called Sexperiment. Ed Young, excellent, great. A lot of work involved in that. Good work, but a lot of work. Power of Praying Together. The power of praying anything that Stormy O'Martin's written. This book, that actually Power of Praying Wife, is what saved my marriage the first time. I say the first time because it's been saved a lot. I've like got a Pentecostal marriage. It's lost and saved and lost and saved. This book is a kind of a more deeper theological book, but it's really heavy on the biblical principles of marriage, but it's really good, strong book called One Flesh. That's a good one. For a lot of you guys, you'll get bored with it though, so I'll just skip it. Boundaries in marriage, boundaries in anything. We have in this group, and this isn't normal for every church, but in this group, we have the most insecure people in the world. Boundaries in anything is going to help you and help your marriage, but this is actually boundaries in marriage. Really good. These, if you aren't creative, if you aren't creative in your marriage, this is a lot of creative things you can do to improve your marriage, and there's a lot of other ones. It's called Love List, and it's just really a bunch of just ideas and things you can do. These two books, though, if you're going to be married, if your kid's getting married, if someone you know is getting married, you give them these as gifts. Okay? This book is called His Needs, Her Needs. It's by Dr. Willard Harley. His Needs, Her Needs is a must, essential. This is pre-marriage, post-marriage, teenage. This is a book that should be issued in our school systems. Okay, His Needs, Her Needs. If you haven't read it, get it, read it, okay? This is the 5 love languages. This is a men's edition. It's mine. Didn't figure I need the woman's edition. There's the book's purple, though, the 5 love languages books. Another essential book. Now, these books aren't about your spouse. These are about you. That's why they're so awesome, because they show you who you are. They show you how you communicate, how you relate. So these are extremely helpful. These are 2 books that everyone should have in their home. Invest the money to have these books on the shelf, and I would say go through them at least every year, because your needs change and your love language shifts, adapts, moves. Relationships grow and they become. So things are always evolving and changing. If you haven't read these in a year, get them out again. I remember the first time I read this, I was on a plane. His Needs, Her Needs. And I remember opening, I remember telling Celia, this is it. This is me. See? Because I could never verbalize what it was that I was missing. But Dr. Willard, he he verbalized exactly what I was trying to say and couldn't communicate. So these are extremely helpful books. Now, you need to write this down, okay? Write this down. www, World Wide Web. You don't even have to put the W's in there. It'll just go there. The magic of the internet today. marriagebuilders.com. The one thing I hear more than anything else is I cannot afford marriage counseling. Ta-da! It's free. It's free. It's free. It's idiot-proof. It's step by step. If you have a computer or if you have to go to the library and you can read on a 5th grade level, this will save your marriage. If you want it to be saved. I'm going from a point of view that you want it to be saved, okay? Is that clear? Because if you don't want it, then, it's game over. Okay. Those are things that are going to help you tremendously. Now, I'm going to get started by saying this. I'm going to be as straightforward as I can because I think too many churches beat around the bush way too much and we never get the help we actually need. This is going to be like TV 14. Okay? If your kids are too young and don't understand and makes you uncomfortable to have me talk to them about sex and about other parts of marriage, then we have classes for all of them, okay? If your kid is a teenager and in here, it's good for them to hear because if you're not talking to them about sex and I'm not talking to them about sex, then somebody else is, okay? Somebody else is talking to them about it and they're getting a distorted worldview of wrong things about the greatest thing, okay? All right, so let's start off and let's decide where we're at. Now, there's 3 areas in marriage, 3 states of marriage. The first state of marriage is the state of intimacy. In the state of intimacy, what happens in the state of intimacy is you're actually in love with each other. You guys agree that this is the best part of marriage? Like, the thing that makes marriage work, and I know this sounds simple, but guys, people miss it all the time. What makes a marriage work is being in love. People fall out of love, and that's why they get divorced. I have never, ever in my entire life met anybody that said, I'm in love and we're getting a divorce. We are in love, but we just can't make it. People get divorced because they fall out of love. The state of intimacy is when both partners are in love and meeting each other's needs, felt needs in the marriage, and then everything is going okay. Now, there's different degrees of all of these, but the blissful marriage is when you're meeting all of your partner's needs and they're meeting all of yours and everything's great. The next stage of marriage is called conflict. And that's when we start to slip. Whether we've just been together forever and we know each other and we're familiar and we just start to ignore the things we did at first. Whether we just get busy, whether we get tired, whether we have kids, whether we have a physical failure, whether our bodies we get sick or whatever, something happens and we quit putting forth the energy and effort that we once put forward, and so we go into conflict. And what conflict is I know you so well, not only am I not going to meet your needs, I'm going to use your needs against you. And so there's this constant fight and there's this battle and there's this war raging on, right? And we know that's no fun and that's no great thing in marriage, although all the TV shows portray it as this is really when it gets fun. If you're in it, it's not fun, right? So that usually leads, unless somebody steps in and says, I'm done, I'm tired of this, we're going to make changes, we're going to save this thing. If one of the two partners will make a stand and say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get back back to the intimacy, then these things will save a marriage. If it falls one more step, you're in trouble. And I want to tell you this as straightforward as I can. Once you go to this step, it is almost impossible to recover. And that's the stage of withdrawal. At the stage of withdrawal, not only do you not want to meet your partner's needs, you don't even care if they meet yours. You shut down, you quit trying, and a lot of people will think this is peace coming about in marriage, but what it is a silent killer. You just go into withdrawal. You just start going through the motions, and pretty soon you don't even care enough to stay together. The reason this stage of marriage is so dangerous is this is the most opportunity that outside influences have to swoop into your marriage and meet somebody's needs and steal your marriage. Okay? It's a very dangerous place to be. Now, it can be overcome. But man, you have to throw in everything you've got. You have to give it everything you've got, because at this stage of marriage, the other person is not going to help you out. They're going to fight against you trying to fix this. They're going to fight against you trying to put this back together. In this state of marriage, there has to be, from your spouse's perspective, a noticeable improvement, a noticeable change in who you are. Can we do it? You can do it. You can do it. You know how I know? Because some of you dudes are just ugly. And you have beautiful wives. And I say, how does this happen? And somehow you won her. Somehow you put in everything you had to change her repulsion for you. You won her. So I see it every day. I know it can be done. You can win your spouse back. You can win your spouse back. The idea of being in love in marriage is just going back to remember what it was that made you get married in the first place. Now, if it was her dad's shotgun, you may have problems. But most of us got married because we felt in love, right? Didn't matter what our head said. Your head may have been going, this dude is the biggest loser. He's never going to be anything. And your heart's going, but I just love him. I just love him. And so you fell in love. And when you fall in love, then you want to be together more. And you always want it to be escalating. And so as you fall in love, and when two people fall in love and they're both escalating, you get to this state of this place that's called romantic love, where you just can't live without each other. Do you remember what that was like? Is that where your marriage is right now? Do you still get excited when your spouse walks in the room? When you see her car coming down the driveway, does your heart go pitter-patter? When you get a text on your phone and her face pops up, do you just smile? Or do you go, what is it again? This is like for real, right? Before you got married, before you married this person, I seriously doubt if when she texted you, you were like, well, or Morse coded you for some of you guys. Dad, that was for you. But when it was her, man, didn't something in you leap? You feel that excitement, that anticipation. See, that's That's not just for dating. That's called falling in love and being in love. That is what we call and what Dr. Harley calls romantic love. And the idea behind staying married and having a fruitful marriage is having romantic love. Going back to the place where you get excited to see your spouse. If you guys treated your wife or husband the way you treat them now before you got married, would you be married? Would you be married right now? Would you have ever married? If your wife treats you like she does right now, would you have asked her to marry you? No, but I guess that's different than elbowing. You set that on your phone every time I hit it. That's awesome. Silence. What made you get married in the first place? What made you get married in the first place? Now, I know a lot of people in this culture, in this day and age, would say, well, we had to get married. Because when I was growing up, if you got someone pregnant, you had to marry them. There was this moral, social obligation to get married. But back then, you wouldn't have just slept with someone that you wouldn't have had an interest in anyway. Nowadays, I'm not sure that that's true at all. I think sex is just whatever nowadays. And so, but there's also no moral obligation to ever see the person again, no matter if they're having a baby or not. So it's just a different world. But if say you're in a situation, most of us are a little older and we're in a different world then, and you're in a situation where you had to get married, still something in you made you do that. And look, if you're together this long, something worked. Whether you fell in love after you got married or not, something worked. So what I'm saying is you have to fall in love to get married. Now, here's the deal with you guys who are single or young and looking or dating or whatever. If you are faking it, if you are faking who you are because you've fallen in love with somebody and they haven't fallen in love with you, and you are becoming something else for them, you're dating the wrong person. And when you get married, you're going to have problems. Because no one can play the game forever. Sooner or later, you're going to get sick of being what somebody else wants you to be. Sooner or later, you're going to get tired of being this un-you. If you're dating a person, though, and you're in love with that person, then you are so in love with them, you meet their emotional needs to make them fall in love with you. The key is they have to fall in love with you, not an idea of who you've made them think you are. This happened to me once. My bride ran a game on me. And then we got married, and about 5 years in, she decided who she really was and was tired of me treating her like I thought who she was. All of a sudden I wake up and I'm like, who's this person? You used to love this stuff. Come to find out she hated that stuff. She was just playing a game, right? Cool thing was I was so awesome it didn't matter. We stuck. Now, I'm telling you this, though, it was war. It went to war then because I felt ripped off. And she felt suppressed and controlled and really in a mindset of her life being taken from her by an outside force. And so when she started wanting to become who she really is and be free, then all of a sudden, man, I'm like, who are you? And what happened to my awesome wife? Eventually, who you are is going to come out. So if you're having to play a game while you're dating, stop. Just stop. It's really not. It's really not going to work out. It's not going to work out for you. Just end it now and find someone else. Now, the person you're looking for isn't going to be exactly like you. They're going to be your polar opposite. Here's the awesomeness of marriage. Here's the awesomeness of falling in love. Love is what? Sacrifice, right? Love requires sacrifice. If I truly love, then I'm willing to give up myself for someone else. Now, this is not denying myself and pretending I'm somebody else. What this is knowing who I am, being so secure in who I am, but giving myself away to meet someone else's needs. We've all done it because a lot of you guys are married. You did this. When you're dating, you would pull up at her house and she wasn't ready and you were like, oh, that's so sweet. And now you're out in the car honking the horn going, I'm leaving. Right? You were willing at that time to sacrifice your own need for being on time and being punctual and who you are, but you were willing to let that go because you loved her, right? You gave up something that's valuable to you to her. You met a need of hers, which is just her working on her own schedule, her space. All right. Now, I've talked about these needs, and I'm going to run through them. And here's what I'm going to do today is I'm going to run through these because there's 10 of them. And over the next, and we may not get through this next week, but the next couple of weeks, we're going to drill down in how these things work together. Is that okay? Because I don't have time to do this. Like, we'd be here 8 hours for me to get really everything you're going to need to know about these. But next week, we're going to drill down and start to talk about how these things work, all right? But here's what I want. I want you to know what they are because I got to give you some homework, all right? Now, Johnny, if y'all just pass these around, start like half of them on that side. And if everybody would take, like every single person take one and every married couple just take one for the couple. I want to make sure everybody gets one. If you don't get one, see me after service and I'll get you one. I'll print some more. There's a lot more of you than there was supposed to be. So, all right. So if you couples can take one. But what I want to talk about are these emotional needs that I keep mentioning because these are the felt needs of human beings. Now, in these books, His Needs, Her Needs, and in other counseling things, you're going to see that a lot of these, especially 10 years ago, this book, His Needs, Her Needs, this book was written in 1988 and has outsold itself more copies every year. Because it's still relevant. It's still relevant. So the human needs haven't changed, but what has changed is there has been a shift in the His Needs and Her Needs. A lot of times I'm finding that today, a lot of even my needs are on her list. So like a lot of women's needs were listed under His Needs. These are basic human needs, and you need to know what your basic human needs are. What you feel, what makes you feel love, okay? This is what your emotional needs are, is how you feel loved. This is important. Guys, this is so important. If you have children, you need to know how they feel loved. Does that make sense? You need to know your kids and how they feel loved. Because you may be loving your kids, but they don't feel love. They don't experience love. This is what I'm talking about here is experienced, felt love, okay? And if we do these things and meet these needs for each other, then we're going to feel love and we're going to be giving love. Does that make sense? And a failure to do so makes you fall out of love quickly. All right, the emotional needs are these. The first one is affection. Primarily, this is a woman's need, but I experience the need for affection myself. Affection can be shown in what it is. It's expressed love through deeds, through actions that are in a non-sexual way. Okay, holding hands in public, kissing, public displays of affection, like they called them in school, right? So PDAs, right? It's also sending a text for no reason. I love you. I miss you. I'm thinking about you. Like when we do these things, like if I just send Celia a text that says, I was just thinking about you. Well, first thought is, what's he up to? Is he at Guitar Center? You know, it's something like that. And then it's like, oh, that's how, and she feels loved. And those are called credits, and we'll talk about the love bank more next week, but those are credits into my account. Other ones in this affection is cutting aside and spending quality time together. I have this as one of my huge needs is I want to spend time with my wife. And I get frustrated and feel like I'm not important to her. She doesn't love me if she doesn't want to spend time with me, or if she wants to spend time, by herself. I'm like, you love yourself more than me, you wicked woman. And she's like, you're smothering me. So we meet in the middle. I follow her around and she does what she wants. No, I might have her come up with me next week. We'll talk about these things together because y'all are only getting one view, one perspective, right? All right. Sexual fulfillment is I believe, at the top of just about most felt needs in marriage. Sexual fulfillment is where everything comes to roost. It's where divorce happens. When this need isn't met, it's where divorce happens. And the reason is because sexual infidelity, if this one isn't met by your spouse, there's a lot of these others that get met by other people in our lives, and we don't call that cheating, right? Which it is cheating. You're having an affair. If you are giving love and receiving love by someone in a deep felt need, by someone who isn't your spouse, you're having an affair. I don't know if you realize that. Yeah, you're having an affair. If your affection is being met by somebody at work or any of these other things, meaningful conversation or any of these other things, you're having an affair. Yes, it counts. And here's the thing. A lot of times that will work into sexual infidelity, but a lot of times that isn't the primary thing that happens. Now, it can be if that's the need that is out there that's not being met. But when I talk to most men who admit it, most women won't admit it, but it's starting to be more and more women who have this as their primary need, emotional need, is sexual fulfillment. And what that looks like isn't necessarily, and you'll talk to any guy who has this, it's not that I need sex 24/7, but I need my wife to meet my needs sexually, to be sexual in nature with me, to flirt, to tease, to be present in the bedroom. Here's the thing, a lot of guys who will have this need will gripe and gripe and gripe until they get it met. And then the wife will generally just go through the motions, and that isn't sexual fulfillment. That actually causes a problem called sexual aversion, which makes you relate emotional needs to a dislike. When you make love to your spouse, it should take your level of intimacy up. It should make your marriage better. So couples who aren't having sex, your marriage is in trouble. Your marriage is in trouble because that's the thing that makes marriage different than any other relationship, right? Yes, it is. Yeah, don't have sex with your friends. No, have sex with your spouse and it will change your marriage. You'll start to improve it. But if you're not meeting or having your emotional needs met and you do that, it causes the opposite thing to happen inside your body, inside your head, and you have an aversion towards sex. Now here's the thing, marriagebuilders.com. There is a whole section on sexual aversions. A whole section on it because it's such a common problem. So, meeting sexual fulfillment, and I'm going too much into these. The next one is conversation, and it's meaningful conversation. It's sitting down and turning the TV off, and a lot of people have this. And I say this is a primary for women, but more often I see this with guys too. Is they need and thrive on that conversation, meaningful conversation. You know, what are your hopes, your dreams, your goals? These kind of conversations, these intimate types of conversations. If you did these things when you're dating, if like you were driving when you're dating and you're just telling your girlfriend, man, this is my hope and dream and I want to do this, I'm going to do this, and she's falling in love with you. She's like, oh. Because you are meeting her need for meaningful conversation. Maybe she's wanted that and no one's ever really talked to her like that, and so she's fallen in love with you. And now when you get married, you drive and you're like, can you hold it down? I got the sports radio going, and like, what did they say? I missed what they said. It's because she's trying to talk to you. You're always butting into the radio. You're not meeting those needs. It causes problems. Here's a huge one. Recreational companionship. What this means is, this is the thing that you like and that we often do when we're dating that we quit doing when we get married. This is where guys' nights and girls' nights out and guys' nights outs come. When you don't meet that need, they need that need met, and so they have these other times where they have recreational companions. If you're in love, you want to spend time doing what you like to do with your spouse. I've seen this a lot on Facebook because a lot of ladies today like to deer hunt. This is weird because I don't know why. What's that? All right. So a lot of wives like to do this, and guys are like, wow, man, this is so cool. His wife goes deer hunting with him. And maybe that's something that is a thing. Now, that's not my thing, okay? But maybe that's your thing, and maybe that means something. But what you want really is you want her to at least show an interest, or him to show an interest in what you really enjoy doing. So many times there's a dominant spouse and you end up doing everything the dominant spouse wants to do. And you start to take away from these emotional needs. But if this is one of your primary needs, then if you don't meet this need, it's just like being cheated on. It's being neglected. The next one is openness and honesty. This is important to people today because there's so much fakeness and falseness out there. Everybody's putting on a show. Everybody's wearing a mask. And maybe you were vulnerable with your spouse and you really showed your openness, your feelings whenever you were dating, and now you're married and you won't share anything about, everybody can tell you're in a bad mood, but you won't say why. You're just walking around. And maybe at the same time you're stealing your spouse's need for that openness and that honesty. And they always feel like there's something hidden in there. The next one is physical attractiveness. Now, there's a couple in here that are going to sound extremely self-centered, I'd say. They're not politically correct culturally. Like, it's not correct to say I fell in love with my wife because she was beautiful, right? or I'm attracted to people because of their physical appearance. But aren't we all at some level physically attracted to our spouses? I mean, people we fall in love with? Here's the thing about physical attractiveness. It has more to do with how you present yourself and how you take care of yourself and the things you do. If you were getting ready to go on a date before you got married, you would look in the mirror and go, wow, this makes me look thin, or this makes me look like, whatever. And you would care what you look like, but then you get married. We actually had friends that went through this in their marriage, and he was like, since we got married, you wear your pajamas all day. You hadn't put on makeup in months. You hadn't fixed your hair. What happened? And it was to the point of divorce because they didn't see it as an important thing, but for him, it was completely saying, you don't love me. You don't love me. And so when it's physical attractiveness is that important. Now here's the thing with women. A lot of times in the insecurities that women have, especially in our culture today, is there's a standard for attractiveness. That's a lie. Don't ever believe that. It's a lie. Your spouse married you because you turned him on. Right? You are attractive to your spouse. You may not be attracted to anybody else in the world, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Now, this goes both ways. I mean, like if you're a guy and you're like, you wore the Dockers and the tie and whatever you were wearing and whatever made your wife think, wow, he really takes care of himself. And now, you got the big beer gut and you hadn't combed your hair in, 6 years. And she's like, golly, wow, really going all out for me now. The thing is, you're cheating, man. You're taking away what you fell in love for, what you were giving to meet a need, you've taken away, and it starts to hurt your marriage. Physical attractiveness, though, isn't a standard. It's what it is to your spouse. The next one is financial support. Financial support. This isn't who earns the most money for the family. This is financial security is important too, and it should be, and it probably, I don't have numbers, but one person in the relationship is going to have a high need, emotional need for financial security. I think God puts us like that for a reason. I know I'm not the one. And if God would have put me with someone like me, it would have been disastrous for us financially. But financial security is important to my wife. It's one of her top love needs. It's what makes her feel loved the most. Now, it doesn't matter who makes the most money. That's not what it's about. Your wife can make the most money, or your husband can make the most money, and it still be a financial security is still your felt need, even if you earn the least in the relationship, or the most in the relationship. If you're the big earner, you're looking for your spouse to not go and blow the money, to be responsible with it. Here's the way it looks in real life, and I'm going to go into a lot more detail, but we come home, and if financial security is my love need, emotional need, I feel loved when you contribute financial security. We come home, and you go to Walmart and spend $300 on a bunch of crap, and we didn't need it. And every time you do that, you are taking away love. You are showing me that you don't love me, you don't care for me, you don't care about our finances. And if you don't care about our finances, then you don't care about me. And so you're taking love away. Now, on the other way is if you don't even work, your husband, say you don't even work, say you're a stay-at-home mom and your husband, but his love language or his love need, emotional need is financial security. He's going to work because that's a huge need for him is financial security. And he comes home and you're like, I saved this today and saved this and I made this and we got this and we've got now this much money in savings and we're paying off these bills. And he's like, wow, she really loves me. She really loves me. So it's a huge emotional need and it's extremely, extremely important. And there is no right or wrong whether you've got these or you're good or bad, right? These are just who we are. The next one is domestic support, and this is the most like male chauvinist sounding one. But some people just feel loved when their spouse takes care of the house, cleans up, keeps things clean and neat and organized. And if you don't, you're telling your husband or your wife, hey, I don't care about you. If you're just a pig and a sloth and you just live that way, and that's a need, an emotional need of your spouse, and they may let it go, they may not say it, or else they're running around after you cleaning up all the time and you think you're ruling the roost, but she just cleans up all the time. What she's saying is, you're not loving me, I'm having to love myself, and pretty soon I'm not going to need you. I can love myself without having to clean up after somebody else. So if this is one of your needs, then you can start to see how important this is. The next one is family commitment. This is a big one in women, is how committed is my husband to our children's development, to our family time, to our family obligations. How committed is he to my parents, to his parents, to our kids, to the well-being and the growth of our family. And a lot of people are family-driven and family-oriented, and if you're not, then you're telling your spouse, I don't love you. If you're like, I don't want to go to your family stuff, I hate your family, I hate doing things with the kids, and that's your spouse's like major emotional need, you're going, man, I hate you. That's what you're telling them, I hate you. These are important. The next one, I think, is one that nobody, because being politically correct, would say, this is my primary or whatever, but I think it's more people's primary, probably up there with sexual fulfillment, is admiration. For men especially, there is a sense of needing to be admired by your spouse. And what happens more times than not in those relationships is not only, and it's funny on TV shows, they make the husband look like a dumb, worthless idiot, and the wife's holding everything together. And so they talk about him like he's not even there. When you do that, if your spouse's emotional need is admiration, and you do that to them, here's what happens. Not only do you not get credit in their love, do you fall deeper in love, but you infuriate them and drive them away from you. If you call someone who needs admiration stupid, irresponsible, incapable, you are destroying them. You're not just neglecting them, you're destroying. You're not just not loving them, you're doing the opposite to them. And so what happens in those cases, well, the first thing, in all of these cases, what happens is there's somebody at work, there's a guy at work or a girl at work that's admiring, telling them how good they are, how good they look, how they're the best at this, how lucky. Here is a number one signal that someone is stealing your spouse. Your wife is so lucky to have you. Stand back. Yeah, your husband's a lucky man. Stand back. When you start admiring it, it's just the start. That thing's going to end up in a sexual incident. That's where it's going. But it's going to start out with admiration, or it's going to start out. Now, as we go through these, you're going to start to see, wow, this is mine or that's mine. Here's the thing, and this is what I want you to do this week. This is part of your homework, okay? And I'm going to be done. Part of your homework is, first of all, you need to know where you're at in your marriage. Because if you know you're in a conflict state right now, then you need to agree with each other that we're in a state of conflict. If you're in a state of withdrawal, it's good to wake up to that together than to wake up apart and realize it's gone. Too little, too late, right? Where is your marriage now? Okay, the next thing is, do we want to make this better? And if you do want to make your marriage better, it doesn't matter what state you're in, your marriage can be better tomorrow. It can be better this afternoon. Here's how it's going to start to get better, is you're going to have to sit down. Now, you can take this list. Excuse me. Wow. I hurt. You can take this list and you go home and you go through it, or you can go to marriagebuilders.com and they actually have a felt needs questionnaire that you go through. Okay? marriagebuilders.com. But whatever you need to do, you need to figure out what it is that makes you feel loved. Okay? You need to know what makes you feel loved. Why did we get married in the first place? What did Celia do to make me feel that she loved me? What is it that I value in my emotional makeup? What is it I value as my most major need? Now, you're going to come out, in general, you're going to come out with 5. Okay? 5 things. The other ones you're going to go, that's stupid. Don't say that's stupid to your spouse, because that's going to be on her list. All right? And you devalued what? You devalued her feelings. Remember Eric and Kitty, the perspectives? There's no rights or wrongs. There's just different perspectives, right? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. There are different perspectives. Okay. Here's what I've found out in being married for nearly 22 years and for being a pastor for over half of that time and dealt with more divorces than I've dealt with marriages. If you know what your number one, and a lot of times there'll be almost a tie, number 1 and number 2, you can do without every other one of your emotional needs ever being met if those 2 are met well. Marriages will thrive if you can meet your spouse's primary emotional needs. Now, I'm not saying you don't work on the rest of them or don't not care about them, but if we will meet and learn to meet each other's emotional need, primary emotional need, the other ones will work themselves out. People get divorced because their number 1 or a combination of number 1 and number 2 primary emotional needs are completely neglected or in fact turned and used against us. So today when you go home, man, you need to figure out what's driving you. You need to know what's driving you. Then you need to share that with your spouse. Now, the more you discuss these things this week, the better ground you're going to have next week when we come in and start to break down how these things look in real life and what the causes are and the effects of falling in love more or falling out of love more every day. Every day in marriage, we're either falling in love more or out of love more. Every day. And you only have so many days of falling out of love till your marriage is over. Do you understand? All right. Let me pray for you, and then we'll hit it again next week. God.